right. So Greg is going to cover this today. Seems like that he wants to talk about, and I guess in a lot of ways we're already talking about it, but it's being proactive and knowing about the equipment that you got to sell and support. So go ahead and
Yeah.
rant.
Well, I think I kind of already talked about that.
You did. You did.
Trying
Yeah.
to do it in a nice way, but I guess that's kind of my pet peeve. If you're going to sell it and you're going to install it, then maybe you ought to know a little bit about it so that if for some reason that machine doesn't function, you at least understand how it's supposed to work so that when it does have a problem, you can have a better understanding of where you got to go to figure out why it is not working.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, you are right in that we've basically been talking about that for the whole time. Getting paid for what you know and all the rest of that. And yes, if you're gonna sell it, you should know what you're selling. If you're gonna end up having to service it, you should know how to service it. If you're gonna install it, you should know how to install it. You should try to find out beforehand. I mean, what we can't really teach is motivation. We can teach everything else. We can teach, we can talk about psychometric charts and we can talk, how to check static pressure. We can do all kinds of things like that. But we can't make you do that. You can lead a horse to water, right?
Well, and I can give you another good example. We already talked about was the multi-pro unit where it was wired incorrectly and they applied power to the communication circuit and caused a lot of problems. The only thing that I really faulted that guy on, and I was straight with him, and I told him this, you relied on the supply house to tell you what you needed to install that unit. So, in other words, they sold him 14.4 wire.
Yeah.
And then when he got out to the job, hook it all up, there was no terminals for 14.4 wire. And then he went back and talked to the counter guy again instead of going to the right people or finding who the right people were to find out how you install that machine correctly before installing. The counter guy at the parts house is not the guy you need to talk to. Most counter guys. I'm not going to say there isn't counter guys that absolutely understand and know the equipment and know how to install it properly and have done all that homework. But the vast majority of them are just filling parts orders. Fill in your order so when you get there, pick it up and will call. It's there. They get the boxes that you ordered, right? So, that I told the guy, I says, you knew looking at it that it wasn't right, but yet you hooked it up wrong anyway, instead of doing the homework ahead of time. Again, we didn't beat him up for it. We corrected him how it needed to be hooked up, and we warranted the parts that he needed. But he could have saved himself a whole lot of aggravation if he would have just stopped what he was doing and found out how to install that equipment properly first before hooking it up.
Right. Well, the fact of the matter is when you're talking about somebody at the counter or what have you at the branch or whatever, if you got questions about a multi-pro system, you might have to reach out to somebody who might know something about multi-pro specifically. Just like if you were talking about, the Brand X inverter-driven unit, you might want to talk to their TSA, somebody like that, more technically oriented. The fact of the matter is the guy behind the counter has got to know a little bit about everything that company sells, that they have in stock and things that they don't have in stock and all kinds of stuff, like you got coil cleaner and tape and Lord knows everything else. So
well, to be fair, I think that this distribution outlet had just started selling the equipment.
Right. Yeah.
So the guy didn't know.